Hello and welcome to this screencast. I'm gonna show you how to write with the Micronaut Framework the chat application demonstrated in the Hotwire announcement screencast. What is Hotwire? Hotwire is an umbrella term for HTML over the wire. It's composed by three main components: Turbo, Stimulus, and Strada. And in this screencast, I'm gonna focus in Turbo. Which is the heart of Hotwire, and it's basically what allows you to have the same benefits that you will get with a single page applications in terms of speed, but without writing any JavaScript. And in order to do that, I have a Micronaut application. It's a Micronaut application written with Java, tested with JUnit 5. I am using Micronaut Data JDBC. I am using Flyway for database schema migration. And I have two entities. I have a room and I have a message. A room can have many messages. They are related in a one-to-many relationship. And to render server-side HTML, I am using ThymeLive. Micronaut supports multiple rendered template engines. One of them is ThymeLive, but you can use things such as Rocker, Velocity, Handlebars, etc. In this screencast, I'm going to be using ThymeLive. And let me just run the application and show you. So it's a chat application. If I go now to a localhost 8080, I can have a room, I can delete a room, I can create a room, I can edit a room, and I can post messages into a room. Nothing fancy, but a functional application. The Micronaut application has all the controllers to create this create, read, update, delete functionality for the two entities that I showed you. And the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to install Turbo, and now things are going to get more interesting. So if I open layout.html, which is a file here on my project, I'm gonna add this snippet of JavaScript, which essentially install Turbo via a CDN. So I'm gonna run the application, and we're gonna get for free by installing is we are gonna get Turbo Drive. What does it mean? Turbo Drive. When I hit a link, when I hit the backlink, for example, Turbo is gonna prevent the browser from following it. And instead it's going to actually change the browser URL using the history API. It's going to request the new page using a fetch request, and it's going to render the HTML response. And during the rendering, Turbo Drive is going to replace the current body of the element outright, and it's going to merge the contents of the head element. And it works also with form submission. So if I submit a form, if I submit here this form, Turbo Drive is gonna follow the redirect and is gonna render the HTML response. So just by installing Turbo, we get the benefit of getting Turbo Drive out of the box, which is really, really nice. And we are going to talk about the first feature of Turbo, which is Turbo Frames. Turbo Frames, they allow you to decompose a page into independent context. And these Turbo Frames, they can be lazy loaded, and they can scope interaction. And in order to be able to see them easily, we are going to modify another file in our application, which is a CSS file. And we are going to add a snippet of CSS, which is going to highlight all these Turbo Frames with a blue border. And I'm going to I'm going to wrap parts of my page in Turbo Frames. So I'm going to edit the show HTML. I'm going to edit the show view of rooms, and I'm going to wrap the room name and the buttons to go back and to edit the room in a Turbo Frame. And I'm gonna use the ID room attribute, and I'm gonna also go and change the edit HTML, and I'm gonna create a Turbo Frame with the same ID and wrap the form. that I used to edit the room. So if I now run my application again, if I run my application and I hit, you see the blue border in action. If I hit edit, you see that the form for editing the room is displayed, but only the form, not the links. What do I mean is if I actually open directly the edit page, the show and the backlink and the header, they are not displayed within the frame when I edit it directly. And let me show you what Turbo is doing for me. So when I come here and I go to the network tab in Safari, let me clean this. If I edit here, Turbo is gonna take the response, but it's gonna, because in the header of the request there is a Turbo frame called room. In the response, it's gonna search for a Turbo frame with the same ID, and you see it's gonna essentially extract it HTML from the response, and it's gonna replace it here. So it's ignoring this show and this back and the headers, and that's Turbo is doing that automatically for me. Micronaut ships in Micronaut views with a convenient annotation to actually just respond the HTML that Turbo needs and not more. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna come to my application. I'm gonna go to the edit room controller, and I'm gonna add the following annotation, which is I'm gonna add the Turbo frame view annotation here. And in the Turbo frame, the value of the annotation is actually the view that I want to render, and the edit view is just the form to edit the room, which is exactly what we want. So if I now run the application again and I click the edit button, the response of the server is going to be just the Turbo frame HTML that Turbo needs. Is essentially not going to respond all this extra HTML that was unnecessary. So that's a really nice addition that you can get with the Micronaut Turbo frame view annotation. So one of the things that is currently broken is that if I tap the backlink, that's not working. So when you click a link within the frame that goes somewhere without a matching frame, nothing's going to happen. So one solution is to add an attribute to that link, and that's what we are going to do right now. So let me go back to the show.html page, and we are going to add the attribute data turbo frame, and that's going to get rid of the problem. So just let me just run it again. And now if I click the backlink is working again. So the next step for us is going to be to talk about lazy loaded frames. And in order to do that, I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to go to my message create view, and I'm going to wrap the form in a frame, and I'm going to call the frame new message, and I'm going to wrap just the form. There you go. And in the room show, which contain the link to render the message form to post a new message into a room, instead of having a link to that page, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say this is gonna be a turbo frame instead. Actually, let me use the same target and ID that I used in the other view. And what I'm gonna do is this is gonna be a source, so this is gonna be lazy loaded, and I'm gonna close the turbo frame. So this is gonna visit the this URL lazily, and it's gonna essentially search for a turbo frame with the same ID, and it's gonna include it in the page. So if I now run this, if I go here, you see that, let me actually show you in the network tab of Safari. If I clean and you will see two requests apart from the CSS and the turbo request. You will see two requests. One is the main page, and the other one is the lazy loaded new message page. So we could do the same thing that we did in the edit page when adding the turbo frame view annotation. I'm not going to do that, but I leave that as an exercise for you. And what we can do is test this thing. So I could do here like goodbye. And you see that it works, but it doesn't fully work. So if I am like editing the top form and I send another message, you see that the whole page is reset upon form submission, and that's not what we want. On the other hand, if I am like in the middle of writing something, I could change the room name and hit submission, and the form will still be there. So purely independent context, and that's what we want. And what we are going to do is we are going to make our form respond a turbo stream so that we get this pure independent context. And that's what I'm going to do next. In order to respond a turbo stream upon new message form submission, I'm going to go to the message save controller, and I'm going to actually replace the content so that we handle both request accepting a turbo stream response and regular requests, such as the ones that we used before. So let me just replace this content and let me show you what I have just changed. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to modify the controller method to have an HTTP request as a parameter, and my code will bind the HTTP request, causing this method invocation to be bounded there. I'm going to use an static method in turbo media type to verify whether a request accepts a turbo stream response or not. Turbo will automatically add and it will add in the accept header when it submits the form, telling me that they accept a turbo stream response. And then I'm going to use this Fluid API to essentially say that I want to append a new element to the DOM, to the HTML element with a DOM ID of messages, which is our list of messages. And one nice thing that we support is you can use Micronaut views to render a view against a model. So here I am saying that I want to render these templates with this model, and that's the way that you can respond a turbo stream with a nice Fluid API. And if the request doesn't accept a turbo stream response, we can just return what we were used to. So now I'm gonna run the application again, and upon form submission we will see that the server responds now a turbo stream. So I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna let me just refresh the page to show you. I'm gonna say this is let me clean the network tab, and I'm gonna say hello with turbo stream, and the server now responds a turbo stream, and the content type of the response, you see that is of type turbo stream, and the accept that I was telling you, Turbo says that they accept turbo stream, and that's how in Micronaut we know that we are able to respond a turbo stream. Micronaut ships also with an annotation for responding a turbo stream if you want. If you have, for example, a controller that only needs to respond to turbo stream, you can use that annotation there. One thing that you may have noticed is that the form is not clear upon form submission, and that's probably not what we want. Probably what we want is that when I hit the send button and I get the response, the form is reset, and we are going to solve that with an stimulus controller. A stimulus controller is part of Hotwire and is this modest JavaScript framework which can be used with the HTML that you already have, and In order to do that, I'm going to create an stimulus controller. So I'm going to go to my application. We have a Micronaut application which is serving static resources. So I have here some style sheets. I'm going to create some JavaScript assets as well. So I'm going to create a JavaScript controller folder. I'm going to create an stimulus controller. I'm going to create a file. I'm going to paste the content. And I'm going to modify my layout.html. And we will recap in a second what we just did. I'm going to register the controller that I just created. And the last thing that we have to do is I have to go to the page, to the HTML form and actually associate it to the controller. So in order to do that, I'm gonna add two attributes: the data controller, which tells which controller, with the stimulus controller is associated with this form, and then the action, which is telling that when the form, the submission ends, I have to call the reset method, which we saw in the controller is a simple method which will reset the element, so it will clear the input element. So now if I restart the application, we will see that we will just need to add a little bit of JavaScript to clear the form. So I am going to say clear with stimulus controller, and there you go. The form was submitted correctly. We got a turbo stream response and we cleared the form. So as you see, it's really easy to start adding small snippets of JavaScript with stimulus to essentially give these last touches to your application. But most of the logic is driven in the backend. But this is a chat application. So what's a chat application if there is no interactivity? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open here another browser and I'm gonna go to the same room. And the idea is that when I send a message from Firefox, I want the message to appear automatically in the Safari window. And we are going to achieve this with WebSockets. Turbo supports Turbo streams via WebSockets or server-side events. I'm going to be using WebSockets. Micronaut supports server-side events as well. So that's another option to create this integration. So before creating a WebSocket server in the Micronaut application, let me show you what's already in place. And that's we have a service which encapsulates the business logic when we save a message in the database. Is saving a message and is doing something else, which is publishing an event. To publish an event in Micronaut is really easy. You inject application event publisher, you specify the generic, the kind of event that you want to publish. In this case, I want to publish a room message. A room message is just a simple POJO with the message ID, the room this message belongs to, the content of the message at the time the message was created. And then you call event publisher publish event, and that way you can create other Micronaut components which subscribe to this event asynchronously. And I'm gonna create now a WebSocket server. So I'm gonna go here to chat WebSocket server. I'm gonna actually copy and paste the contents of the WebSocket server, and let me talk to you about the different pieces. So first of all is the server WebSocket annotation. This is an annotation that defines that I want a WebSocket server to be created using this class, and this is the path where the WebSocket is mapped under. And as you see, you can use like a path variable in the path. and we are using this path variable in onOpen, which is the method that will be invoked when a new WebSocket session is opened. And what we are doing is we are actually like creating like a map of rooms and WebSocket sessions so that we are able to broadcast messages to an appropriate room. And how do we broadcast the messages? We are broadcasting messages using another Micronaut component, which is the WebSocket broadcaster. We are using constructor dependency injection to inject the broadcaster, and I will show you that we use it here downstream to actually broadcast a message. And as you see, you can broadcast a message. You can specify the content type that you are broadcasting, and you can use a predicate. This is a method that I have here, which creates like a predicate so that you can filter and publish a message only to a subset of the WebSocket sessions open. And that's exactly what we are doing here. There are a couple of other methods of interest. I have here a message annotated with onMessage. This is a message that will be invoked when a message is received. I'm not receiving any message from the Turbo WebSocket server that we are going to create in a moment, but this is what you will use. And here is the same for the onClose. This is the method that when you annotate the method with onClose, you can like specify the path variables that you specify in the server WebSocket annotations, and you can also access the WebSocket session. So you can use the onClose to essentially like do any cleanup logic that you have in relation to this WebSocket session that is closing. I implemented application event listener in this class, and what that means is that I am subscribing to new events of type root message. And if you remember, I just showed you that when we create a message in the database, we are actually publishing an event. So when we receive the message, what we are doing is we are actually creating a turbo stream, pretty similar to what we saw when we submitted the form. It's essentially the same kind of fluid API that I showed you before. We are a turbo stream builder can be easily converted into a writable, which can be converted into a stream. That's what we are using to broadcast the message. And that's all the logic that we need to essentially broadcast a turbo stream via WebSockets in a Micronaut application. As you see, it's pretty simple. After we have created the WebSocket server, we have to do something else, which is actually modify the HTML so that we create like a connection to this WebSocket server. So what I'm gonna do is in the show HTML page, I'm gonna come here and create a WebSocket connection to the path we define in the Micronaut WebSocket server. As you see, you can say turbo session connect stream source and connect to the WebSocket. And that's the only change that we have to do on the front end, on the HTML side. So now I can run the application. And I can open here, let me create just a new window, so a new room, so that we see localhost 8080. Let me create a new room, let's say interactive room. And let's go and visit this interactive room as well in Safari. Let me close the inspector so that we see both rooms at the same time. And I can say hello. And you see the message appear in the Firefox window. And I can say goodbye. And the message appear in the Safari window. As you see, it is really easy to get this interactivity that sometimes you need in modern web applications, thanks to the ability of receive turbo streams via WebSocket or server-side events. And both technologies were supported in Micronaut, and as I showed you, it's really easy to create a WebSocket server in a Micronaut application to essentially provide you this functionality. And that's everything that I wanted to show you today. We believe that Hotwire is a great alternative approach for building modern web applications without using much JavaScript by sending HTML instead of JSON over the wire. and we get to keep a lot of benefits because first of all, we have the ability to use our favorite programming language to build most of the applications. So you can build Micronaut applications with either Java, Kotlin, or Groovy. You can use your favorite template rendering engine. You can use all of the logic that you already have on the server side in terms of access to persistence, in terms of access to the security constraints, and you don't have to duplicate all that logic on the front end. We recommend you that you check the Turbo and the Stimulus documentation on the website on hotwire.dev, and we recommend you to visit micronaut.io. Go visit the docs, search for Micronaut views, and you will find all of the documentation for the Micronaut views integration with Turbo. And the last thing that I wanted to point you is that we also have created a Micronaut implementation of the demo application used for Turbo Native, and I will show you that in a different screencast. But if you are interested on using Turbo to simplify your mobile phone application development, and both in iOS and Android, and reuse as much as possible the logic that you and the templates that you already have on the server side, check it out, because we believe that Micronaut is a great alternative for building web backends using Turbo. And we hope you enjoy using Turbo and the Micronaut Framework. Thank you.